Hello and welcome to Faithfully Stampin' with Jennifer Helm. I am Jennifer Helm, the Faithful Stamper, independent demonstrator with Stampin' Up! Today I have for you a bottom flat fun fold card. This is one I saw very recently. It was created by another demonstrator named Mary. I'm not going to butcher her last name because I know I will, but she had created this card in some other prints, beautiful DSP, and I decided to make it using some new DSP that I had and had not had a chance to play with yet. So this is our new Horizon Designer Series paper, and it's absolutely gorgeous. And the fun thing about this card is it's got a little bottom flap, hence the name. This Designer Series paper really speaks for itself. And then you open the card like a typical top fold card. So this one kind of has two cards in one. I'll explain that in a little bit here. And then it can be kept very, very simple and used for any occasion. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how to create the card. The first thing you're going to need is a piece of cardstock that is 4 1/4 by 11. And you're going to want to score it down the middle at 5 1/2. You will need a paper trimmer or scorer for this card, and I recommend our paper trimmer scorer, not just because I sell it, but because it's built for specifically for projects like this, and I'll show you what I mean here. What we're going to do is we're going to create the flap in the front of the card. So we're going to take our cardstock with the 4 1/4 width across the top. We're going to line it up at the 2 3/4 mark. And I've made sure that both my blades are up here at the top. Normally I keep my cutting blade at the bottom and my scoring blade at the top. I like to keep them separate so I don't accidentally cut something I meant to score or vice versa. But I definitely want it at the top because what I'm going to do is cut down from the top of the card here to my score line at that center point. And the reason is because it has hash marks here on the sides and actually all 4 sides of the blade. So it's really easy not to go too far past the mark where you want to cut because there is a ruler here and I can measure just down to 5 1/2, but even better is I've got my score line that I can line up the hash mark with, and I know I'll be pretty darn close, if not perfect, with my cut line. See? Now what I'm going to do is flip the cardstock around so my larger flap is on the top. And I'm going to line up that center score line with the cutting track here. Make sure that blade is back up at the top again. And I'm going to cut down to my cut line, leaving that flap on the bottom. This piece comes off. You can use that for another project. And then I have created the fold for the front of my card. Now while I'm here, I'm going to do one other step and then I can put my trimmer away. You will need a piece of Designer Series paper that is 5 inches wide by 4 3/4 inches tall. Ignore my message, I was apparently tired when I wrote that and wrote wide twice. So 5 inches wide, 4 3/4 inches tall. And what I'm going to do is take this piece of paper and turn it to the 4 3/4 inch side and just cut an inch off the bottom. And then I have the 2 pieces of Designer Series paper that I need. One for the inside card and one for this front flap. So speaking of that inside card, you need a piece of cardstock for that. That is 5 1/4 by 8. And then on the 8 inch side, we're going to score it at 4 down the middle to create a card. And this is that inner card. And I recommend using 2 different colors of cardstock. You could use all the same, but I just found it easier to work with 2. So what we're going to do is first glue the paper on here and then glue the card inside. Now before I glue the Designer Series paper on, I want to add one tiny little accent. I'm going to add some birds flying here in the background. This is a sympathy card, so it doesn't need a lot of fancy stuff, and this paper really speaks for itself, so I thought simple birds would keep the nice subtle theme going. So I'm just going to use Rich Razzleberry ink and stamp a couple of birds. These birds are from the Mountain Air stamp set. And then while I've got my ink and my stamps out, I'm going to go ahead and stamp the inside too. So for the inside, you need a piece of basic white that's 5 by 3 3/4. And I'm using the same color ink as I am cardstock, Rich Razzleberry and Blackberry Bliss, 2 tongue twisters. So the stamps I'm using for the sentiments are from the Inspired Thoughts stamp set. They cover a lot of occasions. So this, I'm using Blackberry Bliss ink to stamp my sentiment. And then I like a little accent stamp. So I'm going to go back to my birds and stamp my birds here on the corners. And one more use of the birds, I like to accent my envelopes. So I have my envelope here, and I'm just going to quickly stamp the corner with the birds one more time. And then that's ready to go. One more bit of stamping. I have a die cut, 2 actually, that are going to layer together, and I just need to stamp my greeting on the front there. So I'm going to go back to that Blackberry Bliss ink to coordinate with the inside and stamp that. Now I can put my ink away before I drop anything in it. And then I can show you how to assemble everything on the card. So first up, I'm going to take the inner card. That was the piece that was 5 1/4 by 8 that we folded in half. I'm going to take my adhesive. This is Stampin' Seal. And glue my inside sentiment panel in. And then I'm going to take that Designer Series paper piece and glue this to the front. And you just leave a little bit of a border around the edge. Next up, we're going to take this whole card and glue it inside the other outer card. So you don't really need an extra strong adhesive. You could use Stampin' Seal Plus if you have it. I don't have it on hand. I ran out and need to order more refills. So I am sticking with the Stampin' Seal, but I don't think my card's going anywhere. And just leave a little border around there, like so. Now we have one additional step yet to create the flap on the front. And what we're going to do is take a piece of cardstock that is 5 1/4 by 4 that matches the color on that inner card. And I'm going to show you a tip to line up your front flap here, the bottom flap, with the inner card. Rather than layer everything together first and then put it on the card, I'm going to do it one at a time. So I'm going to take this piece of cardstock, so that's 5 1/4 by 4, and I can lay it here on that flap and line it up with the side edge and put it in place, and then I know it's got a nice straight line, nice visual there. And then I can repeat that with my strip of Designer Series paper, which I always double check to make sure I have it going in the right direction. Same thing, I'm just going to line up the edge of that Designer Series paper with the edge up top I can see. And now I have a beautiful visual straight line on the front of my card. Last thing to do is layer these 2 die cuts together. These were from the Hippo and Friends die set. There's actually 3 sets of shapes in this set, in addition to some fun little animals like hippos and elephants and butterflies. But the layering shapes are great. They have beautiful detail like the stitching around, and there's a variety of shapes, so very handy to have. You could also use punches or even a single punch instead of a double layer. Now here's the important tip for this part. You need to watch your dimensional placement. If you were to do what you typically do when you put a panel on a card with dimensionals and put dimensionals on all 4 corners, you would glue the card shut. So only put dimensionals on the bottom of your die cut or your punch, and that way when you put it on the card, you are not gluing the card shut. It still opens. Okay? That's the one thing you need to remember. And just like that, we have a beautiful card all ready to go. That's a little something different, but not really complicated. So I have a couple more samples to show you. This designer series paper is so beautiful. I made a couple different cards with different pieces of paper from the set. And I didn't waste a lot because it was a 6x6 piece of paper to start with, and I just cut it down to 5 by 4 3/4. And I saved the extra pieces to use on other projects. Now here, I didn't want to cover up any of this beautiful paper, so I just stamped directly on the front bottom fold here. But the rest of the card is the same. Just, this paper is so gorgeous. And then here is just one more print from that same designer series paper pack. If you do not have a demonstrator you're working with and you'd like a paper catalog to see this beautiful paper in person, just reach out to me and I'd be happy to get you one. You can also check out my website online and find everything there. And again, just let the paper speak for itself and keep that card going. Now we're switching gears, no more sympathy cards. This one is a much happier card. This is our Easter card using our Easter Friends stamp set. Instead of a sentiment on the lower bar, I stamped that on the card itself and then added a fussy cut little chick here and some sequins for a little sparkle. There's my dancing duck, he's so cute. And then there's the inside of my card, and I kept that chick going on the inside and on my envelope as well. I also created a masculine card using the same idea. This one is using our Wildlife Wonder stamp set and features this beautiful bear. I did add some matte dots here. And then the wolf with my greeting on the inside. And I featured that wolf on the envelope. Now, as opposed to the first sympathy card you saw me do, where I took the panel of designer series paper and glued it same side up, for this card and the Easter card, I used one piece of paper, but I flipped that bottom inch over because they coordinate well together. So that's just another option you have. Or you can use two different pieces of paper entirely. So for this card, I took a piece that was 5 by 3 3/4 and then took a different piece of paper and cut it 5 by 1 inch and just glued those on. So it's not the same piece of paper, but the backside didn't coordinate like I wanted it to, so I just made it work, for myself with two different pieces of paper. And this is with our Ladybug set, our new Ladybug Builder Punch. It's a nice, bright, happy card. And of course the cute little ladybug on the inside too. So this is our bottom fold flap card. I hope you enjoyed learning how to make it. Thank you so much for joining me. If you have not already subscribed to my YouTube channel, I'd love it if you did. And you can click that notification bell and it will notify you when I go live with a video or when I upload a video, which is typically about twice a week. You can also find me over on Facebook as The Faithful Stamper. Thank you so much for watching. Take care and happy crafting.